Just go with that. Whatever it is, just go with or be punched in the face.
Welcome back to Would John Rather. John, what episode is it?
76?
72, but are you going up in like a trend of numbers? You were 2 ahead, now you're 4 ahead.
It's a Fibonacci sequence.
Then it will then be 8 ahead. So according to you, very soon we'll be on episode like 268 or something.
It's always been what I've wanted out of the episode numbers. I've never wanted them to make sense.
Your approach to our podcast is like running downhill.
You get faster and faster as you get further.
Yeah, something like that. I read something the other day that apparently the difference between falling out of a plane at like 200,000 feet and falling out of something like, I think it's like the 12th floor window of a building are exactly the same, because that's as long as it takes to hit terminal velocity.
Awesome.
So,
I like to think of our podcast more as falling down a well than falling out of a building.
What, you mean the further we get into it, the quieter we are?
No, you just fall and then you drown.
Oh, would you care to? Can we extrapolate some information from that? I'm not sure I follow.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a weird start. Shall we do some questions?
Oh,
What?
What do you? That's not how you start the podcast.
Oh, okay. Are you ready for some questions?
Oh, that's not it either.
I'm going to dive right in. Would you rather be
into the well?
Right. Okay. We're finally there. Wow. Oh dear. Would you rather be Willy Wonka or 007?
007. Because I know that if I worked in a chocolate factory, I'd die of diabetes and obesity.
You did work in a chocolate factory?
As a temp, and it was in the warehouse, and there was boxes of stuff. It wasn't a production line with Oompa Loompas everywhere.
Boxes of chocolate?
Boxes of Oompa Loompas?
Yeah, but they were destined to be put in other boxes and sold on for a small fortune.
Okay. Well, I'd much rather be Willy Wonka, because if Willy Wonka was a James Bond baddie, I think he would have a cool special move. You know how Oddjob in the PlayStation 2 game Nightfire throws his hat?
Yeah.
And it can go any distance, and kill anybody with one hit. I think Willy Wonka would be a bit like that.
I think Willy Wonka would have like a little candy cane, and then he'd press a secret button, and it'd actually be a switchblade.
Yeah, something like that. So he'd give you a sweet and then stab you in the throat.
I reckon what Willy Wonka would do is he'd point at someone and he'd have laser-guided glass elevators raining from the sky.
That also sounds awesome. See, there's no end of things that...
So we turn Willy Wonka into a supervillain, whereas the closest person to a superhero would be James Bond. He's not quite Batman, and because he's on the side of the law, he's not a vigilante. So therefore, he's actually doing a good job, and he's got everyone's best interest at heart. He's trying to stop the world from being taken over without doing it outside the parameters of the law, like Batman does. And let's face it, any job where you get to walk around and demand martinis left, right, and centre and get private jets everywhere, that's not bad.
I think
he's a sharp dresser. I think the 007 suit is a lot snappier than some purple charity shop hand-me-down.
Willy Wonka could wear whatever he likes. He
just chooses to look like a twat.
He's a bloody rich, chocolate factory owner.
Oppressor of Oompa Loompas.
Yeah, well, we've already established he's an evil villain. That was never in doubt. He, as you say, he's enslaved an entire species of Oompa Loompas. He
I think
uses his power to exploit young children into advertising his products.
I'm all for doing things that people don't even notice. If you've done your job well, no one will even notice. And that's a nice way to fly under the radar. Because if I were to go into a large shopping centre and buy cufflinks that don't have poison-tipped arrows inside of them, it's nice not to be noticed and stopped, and people wouldn't ask me for handouts. Whereas I'm pretty sure, being Willy Wonka, when you leave the factory, you get absolutely swarmed. It's why we never see the Cadbury Bunny.
Why do you think he never used to leave the factory?
Exactly, yeah.
He never left the factory because there was no need. Do you see how fun that place was? He had rivers of chocolate.
So many health code violations going on, it's not even funny.
Didn't he kill like 4 children?
Pretty much. James Bond killed 0 children.
I don't know if that's true.
And he also does like kill pretty much every female he's ever slept with. He doesn't kill, but they do die.
They're not children. They probably deserve.
Yeah, it's always his fault.
Perks of the job. What is the main perk of your job?
Chocolate.
Right. Main perk of being 007 is you get to drive fucking Aston Martins everywhere.
I've got a flying lift
that you don't take outside the factory until the second book. And being James Bond, you've got all the training in the world, so you can fly planes, helicopters, scuba dive, do all the fun stuff.
As someone who has already expressed how much they like cars, think about how high James Bond's insurance premiums must be.
That's fine, the Queen pays for it. Job done. It's a company car.
Yeah, I guess there's that. Who's doing chores while we're trying to record?
John.
If by chores you mean opening ice cream,
oh,
then yes.
Why?
Because we've been talking about him being the owner of a sweet factory and his sweet tooth has kicked in.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm talking about being James Bond, and I've not shagged or killed anyone, so I'm doing all right.
Well, you obviously just don't want it enough.
Restrain myself. No one even know I'm a secret agent right now. I'm blending in.
Well, I want to be Willy Wonka that much that I just can't help myself. And yep, sorry, that's the freezer door shutting.
What flavour ice cream you got?
Caramel.
Salted caramel.
It's like a fudge caramel thing. I don't know if it's salted. I could add some salt.
I think you should.
Okay. It seems reckless.
Oh, it might be a taste sensation.
Yeah, it probably will be, but I don't know. I've just picked up the Penguin salt and or pepper shaker, and I'm not sure which one it is.
Salt has one hole.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that whoever filled it up did it right.
Well, there's only you and your wife that lives there.
Well, I know I would do it right.
You're saying that your wife doesn't understand the difference between a salt and a pepper shaker?
Well, I don't know whether she does. She might do.
Surely
it's not something I've ever asked her.
Before you move in with her.
That's...
ground rules.
You've been
if
together
there's no toilet paper left, what do you do? And do you know the difference between a salt and pepper shaker and how to fill them properly?
Well, nobody told me that those were the rules.
12 years you've been together and you still don't know your wife.
Shall we test it?
Yeah.
All right, I'm pouring salt and or pepper on. It's salt.
That you don't have to get a divorce.
Blessed be the fruit.
Fantastic. I knew your wife was good for something.
Praise be.
Is James Bond a bit like Doctor Who?
Doesn't have, I'm afraid.
Because
James Bond was based on an actual human being. There was an operative in World War II that had lots of sneaky ideas of how to infiltrate Germany and Italy, and he had secret stuff sort of stashed on his person to carry out covert missions. So, as cool and as wonderful as Willy Wonka is, and the imagination of Roald Dahl is second to none, the fact that James Bond was based on an actual human being who did the most daring of raids, I think it's pretty special. So to be based on a real human being and have everything that you can do and have done turned up to 11 compared to the standard human being is pretty cool. Whereas any Tom, Dick or Harry could happen to own a huge chocolate empire if they were born into the right circles. Or
I reckon Willy Wonka was a self-made man.
Yeah.
It takes the right sort of person to be a secret agent.
And I hate the concept. I hate the concept of based on a true story. There's too much artistic license with that. I either want a true story or don't mention it is based on a true story, because the amount of times based on a true story is there was a bloke and he happened to be in this place and something similar happened, it leads people to think, oh, that is a true story. It's like, no, it's very loosely based on a true story.
No, if you go with
based on a true story, it was one man was the inspiration.
Look, if you go with
NASCAR drivers and Talladega Nights, I'm sure there were no NASCAR drivers that ran around the track screaming that they were on fire when they weren't, like Ricky Bobby did.
If you go with Willy Wonka, then I don't need to enslave the people of Hull because I'll already have an Oompa Loompa army. So if you go with me, you save the people of Hull.
And he didn't enslave them; he saved them.
Yeah, and you'll save the people of Hull.
Okay, that's you saved the Oompa Loompas. Good job. James Bond has saved the whole entire world several times over. I'm not going to discredit how important Oompa Loompas are, but Oompa Loompas are part of living civilization in the world. So they've.
What's the point of the world existing if we didn't have chocolate? There wouldn't be any point. No point.
I'm going to sound very American with this, but I associate chocolate with liberty and freedom, and it's a luxury. If we were oppressed by some sort of totalitarianism or fascist regime, I think one of the first things to go would be good chocolate, and we'd only get chocolate funded by the state.
The best way to fight fascism and totalitarian states is good old-fashioned capitalism.
Yes, and capitalism employs James Bond. With capitalism, you get chocolate. Without James Bond, Willy Wonka wouldn't have his empire. I'm protecting you from behind the scenes, and I'm not getting any thanks or recognition for it.
Maybe James Bond.
Because I know that I'm doing my job well because you get to sleep at night.
Maybe James Bond is just defending a corrupt system.
You being the corrupt system, after all, because I'm defending your liberty.
Sure.
So, 2 questions.
Better to be corrupt than to defend the corrupt.
Who was the best James Bond and the best Willy Wonka? And question 2, just so you've got a little bit of time to think, how's the salty ice cream?
Yeah, it was good.
Okay.
I can't answer that because I do not have salty caramel ice cream, I'm afraid.
No, but you can answer the first one.
I grew up with the Pierce Brosnan Bond. He struck me as quite a wholesome character. He wasn't as cheesy as some of the 60s Bonds you see on Channel 5 mid-afternoon, sort of the Roger Moore era, when he was far too old to be playing Bond. And he wasn't quite as gritty as the Daniel Craig new Bonds. I think he was that sweet middle ground of early 2000s, late 90s, future vision, let's have a drifty supercar rocket fight on some ice. I thought it was pushing the boundaries, and it was still believable, and it was good fun.
He was the perfect 90s Bond.
He was, yeah. He was crack on. He was good for the time. There was no one that said anything different about it. Whereas there's a lot of people that have been sort of agreeing and disagreeing with the Daniel Craig, which is fair enough. He's not my favourite, but I think he does a fairly good job.
John, best Willy Wonka?
As in, from the films?
Yeah.
Well...
I don't know if you know this, but when you're reading a book, they don't hire an actor to play that person.
Ah, right. Well, I have not seen the Johnny Depp one, so it must be the older one. Because if the Johnny Depp film was that good, I would have gone to see it.
You mean the guy from the meme?
So, just...
The original one.
You're both making this really hard, because on the one hand, I really thought John was going to win it then, because the correct answer to James Bond is Sean Connery. But on the other hand, you don't know who Gene Wilder is, so I'm going to have to give it to James Bond.
Thank you very much.
I don't know any actors' names apart from Johnny Depp, apparently.
Well, yeah, I was like, John's going to make this easier for himself, and then you didn't know who Gene Wilder was. I'm quite sure he passed away in the last 2 weeks, so it was in the news. And he was
I don't read bad news.
A fantastic actor.
I agree. I chose him.
I chose that guy.
Yeah, that.
I don't know. I didn't mind Sean Connery, but the sort of trying to repress the Scottish accent every time he spoke.
He was the best James Bond. I was a fan of Pierce Brosnan, but I think that's more,
of its time. It was correct.
Well, because that's that was our James Bond.
Yeah.
But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best James Bond. My suggestion of the week is if anyone says that Johnny Depp is the best, you punch them in the face.
Good job I didn't say that.
I know. On that note, anyway, question 2. Would you rather be punched really, really hard in the face or have to eat the Mona Lisa?
Punch really hard in the face. Because
I'd much rather eat the Mona Lisa.
Because I could recover from being punched in the face, whereas I don't know how much
really hard.
Like Mike Tyson hard?
Not that hard.
Mike Tyson's not killed anyone by punching in the face, so I'd take a Mike to the face, because I don't know how much lead paint is.
You
in the
could
Mona
have
Lisa.
phrased that so much better.
I'd take Mike Tyson right in the face. I'd accept it and welcome it all over my mug.
See, if you get punched in the face, you're just going to be one of millions of people that have previously been punched in the face. If you eat the Mona Lisa, you're going to be the only person who ever does that. And
you're going to be the person that's solely responsible for desecrating one of the greatest works of art, or one of the most well-known works of art across the globe.
Yeah, you're going to go down in history.
You're going to get stabbed by some crazy art.
People will be talking about you for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Human race isn't going to last that long.
I'm going to get punched in the face once. You're going to have your back doors punched in when you're in prison.
It's like people who lay down their lives in service of their country. You don't do it for yourself. You're doing it for the future.
Doing it for the likes.
doing it for the gram.
Just to confirm, by the way, in this universe, he doesn't have to go to jail for it. He's not stolen it. It's his possession, but he has to eat it.
I've bought it.
To eat it.
Right. I'm sure there'll be an uproar about it.
It's like the Simpsons episode with the gummy Venus de Milo.
Is that the one where Homer ate the arms?
Yeah, I mean it's incredible. I think it's like people see in the news when Banksy sold that one of his pictures at a fancy auction, and then as soon as the winning bid was announced, it automatically shredded itself. And it'd be like that. And the winning bid goes to John Higgins. Would you like us to carry it to your car? No, I'll eat it here.
Are you admiring this painting in or to go? No, I'll have it in, please. Salad, yeah, plenty of garlic mayo.
Wait, I want to know, how would you cook it? Would you eat it raw? That's a lot of painting. It's going to take you several sittings.
I'm committed to the cause.
Or is it like spinach? You start cooking and it shrinks right up?
No, see, in my head, I thought about this. There's 2 ways to go, sweet or savoury. It was a long time ago which one won, so I'll give you both. Either you slather it in garlic butter, roll it up and just warm it up, so it's like garlic bread. Or you slather it with chocolate icing and roll it up, so it's like a Swiss roll. I think those are the only 2 options, really.
I think it's probably big enough that you could rip it in half and have one of each, mains and dessert.
True.
But why? I want to know a reason. I want to know a fucking reason for it. I'm not debating whether, it's sweet or savoury. I want to hear a good argument as to why eating like a kilo of cotton and lead paint is better than getting punched by Mike Tyson. Just once.
How big is the Mona Lisa?
It's pretty big.
Well,
Google tells me that the moon is 1,700 kilometres.
What's that in?
I don't know, but how big is the Mona Lisa? 77 centimetres by 53 centimetres, so it's not that big. So I reckon it's the perfect size, that if you cut it into 6 equal rectangles, you've got the makings of a quite good lasagna. Except you're subbing the pasta for Mona Lisa.
Well, why?
The notoriety. And also, when people will say, well, what was that mischievous look on her face? Is she pregnant? No, she knew that she was going to be eaten in front of millions of people on TV.
So with a wry smile. That's not how people go out.
And also, you're not eating her, you're eating the picture, just to confirm.
I think she died a few years ago. Right, okay, I've got an idea of why it would be a better idea to get punched in the face than eat the Mona Lisa. You know the ice bucket challenge came out a few years ago?
Yes.
I'm going to have the don't get punched in the face thing. And what I'll do is I'll start it off. I will nominate myself. I won't pay up for it. And then I'll get punched in the face. And then I'll nominate 6 other people. And if they don't want to get punched in the face, then they've got to post a video themselves donating money to AIDS research, cancer support, anything like that instead. And then they get to nominate people. So you're basically grassing up your mates to then donate money to a good charity so they don't get punched in the face. And if you really want to be stingy, you can get a punch in the face for it. There are people that need help and support, and if they don't cough up for a good cause and try and make the world a better place, they get a punch in the face. And I will be the scapegoat, the first one, patient zero, to start that process off.
That's all well and good, but as the scenario here is punched in the face very, very hard or eating the Mona Lisa, people are going to ask why this started, and it's only going to be so long before John and I drop you in it and go, well, he chose to get punched in the face and he didn't donate to charity. He chose to get punched in the face so we didn't have to eat a famous painting. And then that's what the challenge will be. It will be texting your mates. I'm going to come around and punch you in the face unless you eat the famous starry sky painting, or unless you eat that famous Monet. What was it? Is it lilies? Sunflowers? Something like that. And just eventually there'll be no art left. But then rather
donate money than try and eat artwork.
On the same note, John could, if John was going to televise this, then it could become the next new fad.
And then
it's the new happy slapping.
I think it would solve a lot of problems in the Louvre, because there is an equally nice painting by the same artist just round the corner. It's almost identical. It's of a woman in the same pose, and nobody goes to see it. However, there are literally hundreds of people queuing up to get close to the Mona Lisa, and it's just, people just have no imagination for going to see art. They just go see that one just because they've heard of it.
Well, John, I have heard of Tool, and I've also heard of a band called Dan and Aykroyd, who I saw at the Portland Arms in Cambridge. I would much rather see Dan and Aykroyd that no one's ever heard of, because I think I appreciate their music more than I appreciate Tool. But how many people went to download and watch Tool play? Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, but we're not asking if he wants to eat Tool. We're not asking him if he wants to eat Tool.
People? I don't even know how many people are in Tool. I don't know how long it will take me to get through all the members. Or do I just eat like the members that make it Tool, like the bassist, the singer, and the guitarist, or the guy that comes up with all the ridiculous time signatures?
What?
I was just saying. What was I saying? Just because I saw something on a small scale.
I think you were saying you wanted to eat Tool.
Yeah.
No, that's what Matt said. I was saying, if I saw something on a smaller scale, does that make it cooler and more niche than what you're doing? No. It's subjective. It's a matter of opinion. I'm not bothered about seeing the Mona Lisa, but I really would like to see the Hosokai Gallery.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is there's an equally nice Da Vinci that doesn't get appreciated just round the corner, and people don't have the imagination to go see it because they just want to see the Mona Lisa.
So Mona Lisa is like
eat it,
the pop.
And then so if
Mona Lisa is pop culture.
If I eat the Mona Lisa, then people will have to expand their minds.
I'll just move on to something else, like Whistler's mother.
Well, it's less well known than the Mona Lisa.
Then there'll be something else that becomes as famous as the Mona Lisa, and then you'll have to eat that.
No, nothing will ever be as famous as Mona Lisa after I eat it.
When do you stop? Are you going to eat Van Gogh's self-portrait?
No, I'll stop after I eat the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, he's not greedy. One's enough. If he was that way inclined, surely he'd eat the Bayeux Tapestry.
Oh, that's very, very famous.
And also very, very filling.
There's like 12 foot of it or something. What's the tapestry that depicted 1066?
That one, the Bayeux Tapestry.
What's the one? What's the shroud that I'm thinking of that Jesus was apparently wrapped in? It's got an outline of a human on it. The Shroud of Turin.
I reckon the Bayeux Tapestry is longer than 12 feet as well.
Oh yes. Isn't it like a whole wall of an art gallery?
Yeah, I reckon it's like the length of a football pitch or something.
I do have a second suggestion of the week. Don't get your art facts from this podcast.
No.
The Bayeux Tapestry is as long as a football pitch. You heard it here first.
Right, closing arguments. John, why do you want to get punched in the face?
Because I wouldn't want to desecrate modern art for the world. I'd take one for the team and not destroy something that's culturally significant.
I'm all about the chaos. Bring it on. I just want to see what happens. Everyone knows what happens if you get punched in the face. It hurts, and you maybe fall over and crack your head. No one knows what will happen when I eat the Mona Lisa. The reaction could be...
I think you're not going to ship for 2 weeks.
Well, that might be what happens to me, but what will happen to the world? People
will be angry.
People will either be angry or they might be inspired. Who's to say? I'm sure the reaction will be mixed.
Yeah.
You're going to prison either way.
I mean, my one counter argument for eating the Mona Lisa would be, it's a lot of money. Like, if I owned the Mona Lisa, I'd probably want to sell it and not eat it. But if my choices were to not sell it or to eat it, I'd probably eat it. I'd definitely give it a lick. And I think, yeah, I've very much kind of leaned into the whole chaos theory of let's just see what's going to happen. The whole 6-year-old boy thing of throwing rocks at a hornet's nest. Like, it's got to the point with all manner of things that are happening in the world now where I'm just like, okay, let's just see what happens. Let's just, lean into the chaos. And I mean, what would happen if you ate the Mona Lisa? It would be a statement. You'd probably upset a few rich people who liked art, but otherwise there's more important things going on in the world. And it's just
like Tool's new album.
Yeah, it's just snobbery pop culture. I guarantee you, less people would probably care. Less people would care that John had eaten the Mona Lisa than cared about the end of Love Island, which is a sad, sad fact.
I was watching a zombie film, and they were holed up in a museum somewhere, and they needed to start a fire. So what they did was they gathered up artwork and books and started to burn those because it's fuel. The first thing to go in society when it all goes wrong is the art. It's a very sad state of affairs.
Then, yes, definitely. I'd rather eat the Mona Lisa because if we're going to have the downfall of society, let's start it with John.
It was always bound to happen.
Let's burn this fucking planet to the ground. We've already started, so I value my health over my possessions. Perfect. There we go.
If you value your health, then you wouldn't eat a kilo of canvas and oil-based paint.
Yeah,
if you valued your health, you wouldn't get punched in the face.
Exactly.
I can recover from that. I don't know if I could.
You might not. People die.
And no one's ever eaten the Mona Lisa, so it might be. We'll call it research. We'll call it modern art. We'll call it whatever you want.
I'm going to Amazon Prime you a whole palette of colours and an easel, and watch you eat it and see how you feel.
No, because the quality of the art and the content of the art would depict what it tastes like. I guarantee you the Mona Lisa tastes much nicer than the grumpy old couple with the guy with the pitchfork, but probably not as nice as the famous painting of the dogs playing cards. So
I went to your New Year's Eve party with that grumpy old man.
Did you?
I did. I wore my finest dungarees that day.
I think everyone just thought you were a farmer.
Wasn't he just a farmer?
I guess so.
At the time, I had slightly more hair, so I wasn't going to shave it just for that. Wasn't going to shave my head just for the art.
Okay, so final question. What should I go for?
I've decided I'm having ice cream as well now.
Would you rather have to travel back in time and relive the 5 years of high school with the memories that you have now, but not being able to communicate them to anyone? Or would you rather spend the next 5 years from tomorrow morning a mute?
Travel back in time and relive 5 years
Secondary school.
secondary school, but not be able to. This is a really long question. But not be able to communicate those memories, or
So I couldn't talk to anyone about those memories, but what I could do is put a large wager of 2009 that the Steelers will win the Super Bowl.
well, what was the other one? Be a mute for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh,
Would you pick a mute because you understood that answer? Sorry, that question.
no. I think I'd go back to school. I think I'd appreciate it more the second time round. I think when you're at school, you don't realise just how bloody easy life is, and just how fun it is just hanging out with your friends and stuff, and learning for learning's sake.
Thing is, you'd already know all the stuff from secondary school because you've learned it already.
Yeah, so I'd get bloody A's in everything.
Didn't you get A's in everything anyway?
Not everything.
No one could get A's in ECDL. It was impossible. It was just pass or fail.
Well, there you go.
I'd rather be mute for the next 5 years because I think it would make this podcast more entertaining. Because what I'd do is I'd type out my replies and then make one of you two read it out.
Or you could just get some of that software that you just type, Stephen Hawking style.
Are you funding that for me?
You can download it for free.
I'm sure I could do it on my phone, like text speak.
Yeah, you can have the Google voice. No, I still maintain that you also wouldn't make the same mistakes. You'd make new, different ones. Go, I know that I get mocked for the next 15 years about this evening. I'm not going to do that again. But then you make an even bigger, worse mistake. Because even though you've got the memories you do now, you're still a teenager filled with hormones and stupid ideas.
John is a confused man, don't let him win.
Yeah, I think
how I do the podcast.
I think in the scenario, you relive those 5 years, but then you come back to today, so it doesn't change anything, because otherwise, John's right, you would just go and put some outrageous bets on and things like that. So you just get to relive those 5 years, but it doesn't actually change your current life.
Even better, you can have the best 5 years of your life, because you can do anything you want, knowing that it's going to have no consequences.
Everything has consequences.
Not in the scenario he just laid out.
I mean, it would have consequences for, say, if you did that something in your first 6 months, it would have consequences for the next 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about those mistakes that made you who you are today, that you'd avoid?
I can still remember them.
But then it's going to have knock-on effects for other people that you're around and surrounded.
Only for those 5 years.
Right. Think of your first serious girlfriend. You know, you're a part of her life and she was a part of yours. And if you're going to go, that didn't end great, you know what, I'll just bin that whole interaction off. That's a person's emotional development and growth that you've just taken away from them.
I don't think John was listening when he was typing in his Stephen Hawking stuff.
No, I wasn't, sorry.
So when you go back to live these 5 years of high school again, it's almost like not a virtual reality, but it doesn't change it. You're just going back, living those 5 years, but then you're travelling back to where you are now without it changing anything, because otherwise it's too much butterfly effect.
So what's the point?
Almost like you've just had a very vivid dream where you're completely in control and it lasts 5 whole years.
Well, that's much better than being mute for 5 years, isn't it? There is no cause, there is no effect, and I get to release into alkaline trio effect. That's cool, I'm not bothered about that, but I don't get to choose that. I get to be mute.
Yeah, why did you
which
choose
is going to
that?
stunt this, because it's going to stunt this podcast. Can I get a blue badge for being mute?
I don't know. You
I'm
probably have to
disabled,
ask for one.
I don't even know sign language, so I'd be disabled. I would have no form of communication apart from Stephen Hawking everyone.
I mean, you could write things down.
Have you seen my handwriting? No one will be able to understand me.
I managed to teach someone algebra in an hour at school. I think we were in year 10 or 9. I think it was year 9, actually. But we were doing a sponsored silence, and I managed to teach someone algebra without talking in an hour. It's one of my... I've forgotten about that. That completely disappeared from my memory until just then. But I was very proud of myself that day.
Why did you become a maths teacher?
Algebra's awful.
Because I got bored of academics, because I found everything too easy when I was in high school, and now I work in hospitality. Sorry?
Did you have Mr. Mazzucchelli?
No.
Because I had to self-teach a lot of my stuff. No wonder I only got a C.
We had Miss Osman in year 9.
Oh, so you basically didn't have a teacher?
Yeah, exactly. I won't name and shame, but one of our classmates used to regularly combat roll up and down the aisles of the corridor and pretend to shoot a laser gun at her, and she couldn't do anything about it. Which I shouldn't laugh at, but the memory's so vivid in my mind to this day.
One of the pupils in my wife's maths class, she also had Miss Osmond, used to wait until she had to get supplies out of the cupboard because she used to leave her keys in the cupboard door, shut the door, and then lock it.
I can't remember if it was in year 9. I think it was year 9. I had Miss Chudley, and she was a really good maths teacher.
She was.
Yeah, so shout out to her if you listen, if you're one of our listeners. Yeah, you were a really good maths teacher. Well done.
And I don't remember why this was a thing, but I think it was in year 7, in maths class. I'm sure it was with Miss Osman again. There was a load of lads in our class, once again not naming names, even though they probably wouldn't care or ever find out. But there were 2 things they used to do. One was everyone would set their digital watches to go off at 3:16, and the moment they all went off, they would all get up and start singing the Stone Cold Steve Austin theme music at the top of their voices. And the other one was, rather than actually talking to each other, if they had to talk to each other, they'd pick up their rucksacks, hold it to the size of their heads, and pretend they were on giant mobile phones. And they go, hello? Wait, my phone's ringing. And then the other one would pick up their bag and go, hello, have you got the answer to 2B? Wait, you're breaking up. 2B? Yeah, 2B. Don't know why. That was a thing. No idea.
Because you went to a shit school.
Yes.
Fucking around was way better than doing work.
I think there's a national crisis of not enough maths teachers, and I'm beginning to understand why.
Because maths sucks, and being a teacher sucks.
I remember. Yeah. I don't even look back on this. So they once grabbed all my stuff, 2nd floor maths class, and threw all of my stuff out the window. And I don't even remember being annoyed at them for doing it, because the teacher told me off. And I tried to reason with them, going, why would I throw all of my own stuff out of the window? And got a detention for it, which escalated because I refused to go to it. And I ended up getting a letter home and then trying to explain to my parents why I wasn't going to the detention, and them not understanding either. And it's like... And I'm just looking back now. It's so many times.
You can edit it out, but can you tell us who these people were? Cause...
I think it was Jonathan and Martin. No, it wasn't Martin. Martin wrote my name on a table in pen, and I got in trouble for it. And I was like, this was in IT, and I was like, I'm one of your top students. Why would I write my own name on the table? No, who was it? Oh, I think it was Scott, actually. I think it was Scott, maybe Brian. Yeah, because we were sat on that side of the classroom, and everyone was just dicking around, and it just ended up. And it wasn't like even a bullying thing. Everyone was just throwing each other's bags at each other, and mine went out the window. It made everyone laugh, so my coat and all my books followed it.
I had a similar thing happen, but I didn't get detention for it. And I threw my bag and out the window, so I had to go and get it. Mr. Peacock was like, John, go get it. So I went out the room to go get it. And by the time I got back to the top of the stairs, he threw my boot bag out the window as well with my PE kit in it. So I turned back, I was like, where's my PE kit? And Anne just pointed out the window, and there was just this blank boot bag on the floor of the grass. I was like, so I'll be back in a minute. So I took all my possessions with me.
That makes sense, because my teacher in that point was Mr. Peacock as well. So as you're in the year above me, he probably got sick of it.
Oh.
Oh dear.
Okay, yeah, so I've lost this argument because you'll get 5 years of nostalgia and laughs.
It wasn't
What
good.
have I got to offer? Just being quiet.
I think there's a lot to be said for being mute. I think it's 50-50 how often I say things that I should have said and shouldn't have said. And at least if I was mute, you have to think about things before you do it.
But where's the fun in that?
Yeah,
In my
true.
scenario, you can just do things without thinking, with no consequence. Or I can.
Because all your actions are predestined.
Yeah, but how much do you remember of high school that you can avoid it?
There's a lot of mundanity to go through.
Yeah, I remember a lot of things, but not 5 years worth of things. I think.
Like, socially, there's a lot of sitting at bus stations and shit like that was boring at the time, and I did kind of get really annoyed because I know that I was going to miss the bus, have to wait an hour, and I'd just be annoyed at myself because I'm waiting for it and then miss it and then have to wait another hour because I knew it was coming.
I'm gonna go with. I didn't think I was going to end up going with this, but I am going to go with going back to secondary school for 5 years. And I'll tell you for why, because we've been having this nostalgic trip, and my best memory of my teenage years, or at least the 5 years of secondary school, it had been snowing, and we were walking back from the school field, and to paint the mental picture, in the centre of the school was the tennis courts, and to the side of the tennis courts was a U-shaped maths block, where you could only get in through two narrow corridors either side. Now, at our secondary school, you two will remember this, but for the listeners' benefit, they won't. Whenever there was bad weather, there was two bells. So the first bell was to give you a heads up that the bell was going to go in 5 minutes in case it took you longer to get to class. And the second one would be the bell, okay, now you need to be in class. The year sevens had heard the bell, not knowing there was two bells. So they've gone to the maths block. All of the doors are locked. Now, 30 of us walk back through the tennis courts, and all of it was like a hive mind. We all just had the same idea and was like, you can't, and they're packed in like sardines, you can't miss. And the balcony at the top, all the teachers were having a cigarette or whatever before they were finishing their breaks. And we all just start making snowballs, and you just hear, on my command, or something from Lord of the Rings, and we just start launching volleys of 30 snowballs at a time into this crowd of 10 and 11-year-olds because you couldn't miss. And all of a sudden, you just see, I think we were probably onto like the second or third volley of snowballs. The teachers start scampering and panicking because they've realised what's happened, trying to get the doors unlocked. And it was like something from a war film. Just this year sevens just screaming as I just remember it in slow motion. This little girl getting smacked in the face by this snowball. And it was just... We then obviously, as the teachers came out, I don't know what they were going to do to us because it was just a snowball fight that very one-sided. We all obviously split away, and
we're shooting fish in a barrel.
Yeah, and I bumped into your friend John, Miss Chudley, later on in the day, and we just, I think I was with like a couple of the others, and we just stopped and looked at her, and she went, you should all be in a lot of trouble, but that was one of the greatest orchestrated things I've seen in this school. And just walked off. It was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I'd go through 5 years of high school just to do that again.
I can't compete with that.
I hope somebody from school listens to that and remembers us doing it.
What, one of the year sevens?
Yeah.
Just crying. Repress the memories of being a sheep.
I hope none of them have PTSD from that.
Tweet at us if you have PTSD from that.
Well, yeah, I guess try and remember the good stuff, not the bad stuff, because that's almost worth going back to school for 5 years of mundane things happening just to relive that. So, well.
I've been John.
Oh, I didn't know if anyone was going to say anything. Well, these two have been John, and I've not been. I might hand draw a picture of what it looked like during the snowball fight and tweet it.
John, nothing, he's something. We want somebody to it, where every